Hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Steve McMinn from Do Strength. Do Strength Training. What do you call it, Steve?
Just Do Strength.
Do Strength. Do Strength. I've known Steve for well over 10 years. He's helped me both musically and physically to grow as a person. I just thought it would be a great idea for everybody to get introduced to him and what he does in his life. A man that I've got a lot of respect for. You tell us a little bit about yourself. You've got kung fu background. You've got personal training background. You're an exceptional drummer, and you're
thank you, Rees.
You're just about you're engaged, just about to get married. So tell us a little bit about your business. I got a couple of topics that I want to talk about, but if you want to just go ahead and
okay. I'm a personal trainer and kung fu teacher, self-defense instructor. I guess you could call me. I came to personal training through the martial arts. I've been involved in martial arts since my mom put me in a judo class at about 8 years old. And I just kind of fell in love with that, and I've always trained in one art or the other. I started training Wing Chun Kung Fu in 1999 in Toronto, and I've stuck with that style since then. I'm now a third technician instructor, and
wow.
When I left my job in Toronto, I got very lucky. They moved my job to Montreal and gave me the option of moving there, where I was working managing a call center. I could have moved there. I could have just took a package and done something else. So I took the package, came out to BC, tried to find something that was relatable to what I do with the martial arts. And at that point, I didn't feel experienced enough to start kung fu school. Plus, the teacher that I ended up with here was so good, I didn't think I should be starting a school at that point.
Right.
So I just said, what can I do that's going to be something similar? And I figured, hey, personal training, that sounds pretty cool. So I just took the courses and started training in about 2002.
Yeah, was that the school on Hastings off Victoria?
No, his school is Victoria Drive and 49th.
49th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So a little bit.
Yeah, his name's Master Ralph Hanel.
Oh yeah, I've seen some videos. Yeah.
You'll definitely see that. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, I mean, phenomenal instructor. My first instructor, Sifu Asad Mir, amazing instructor as well, who I first learned Wing Chun from in Toronto, and then just got super lucky when I moved out here to find Ralph, who's a phenomenal teacher. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of joined up with him, and then figured I want to eventually teach a lot more martial arts and kind of maybe even move into being more of a martial arts instructor eventually. But I realized that I needed to find something that was in a similar realm that I could do to make money right away until I felt that it would be a good time for me to sort of expand and start doing more of the martial arts instruction. So I was very humbled when I came here and started training with him, and just realized like I still had so much to learn. So I wanted to be a bit more ready.
How did you choose which art to go into? Like, was it just I saw Bruce Lee, or?
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Lee was my hero as a kid, and growing up with curly hair was tough because I wanted to have Bruce Lee's haircut, but I could never have it, so it was very, very frustrating. Lots of mornings spent with wet hair and a toque on my head to flatten my hair down to make me look more like Bruce Lee. And then it was very serendipitous actually. I just was living in Toronto at the time. I was going to school for recording engineering, and my friend Rob just called me up one day. We were both huge Bruce Lee fans. You could probably like talk through every Bruce Lee movie, no problems. He just called me up and said, hey, there's a Wing Chun school here, and that was Bruce Lee's first art.
Yeah.
And he says we should go check it out. And we went down there and we're just absolutely floored by Assad. He just blew our minds.
Yeah.
And we signed up for like 6 months or a year or something on the spot.
That was your first introduction to martial arts, like actual structured.
I mean, I'd done the judo. I'd done the judo since I was 8. So I'd done like judo for a long time. I did taekwondo.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I did this art.
You had the same kind of pedigree as I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a great art called Combat Kempo, which was very like.
Okay.
It was like a very like street fighting kind of thing, super aggressive. Me and a few friends did it, and then we actually quit because there was no philosophical side. It was all like go out and kick ass all the time, and we actually ended up getting into a number of confrontations caused completely by ourselves and how hopped up we were on this art. And our teacher was great, but he was very much of the vein of like, you learn this stuff, but you got to go out and try it out. And then we'd end up, I remember being in a parking lot in St. Mary's, Ontario, squaring off against like 3 or 4 guys, and there was like 3 or 4 of us, and one of them had just said some passing comment to us when we were swimming, and it escalated into an almost brawl in the parking lot. And after that day, we were driving home and just realized, why are we being so aggressive? And then all of us had our own stories about different confrontations we'd been in, like walking down the street at night or whatever, just like getting ourselves into these confrontations by being so aggressive. So after I left London and moved to Toronto, within about a year, we just started, I went to that Wing Chun school, and it was just exactly what I was looking for. It was amazing self-defense, very, very practical, yet it also had that side that you want, which is that the whole purpose of doing it is so that you don't have to fight, and you're supposed to be building a relaxed confidence that allows you to to not have to get involved in physical confrontation because you're confident enough that you don't need to, and it's seen as a defeat, a personal defeat, if you actually have to fight somebody,
right?
And that was what I thought martial arts was supposed to be in the first place. Yeah.
So with those experiences and going from those extreme experiences where you go out and you're looking for some way to prove your skills and find your skills, to another thing where what would you say to someone that was just starting to look for arts? Like, what would you look for? And from my experience, I've done such a variety of different styles of martial arts. What would you look for first, the art or the teacher and school? Like, what are the main components the trifecta that would make, what would you qualities that you look for?
I think, number one, I think teacher and school is really, really important. I'm of course a huge believer in Wing Chun, because for me, that is the art that I grabbed onto and held onto and have been doing since 1999. So obviously it really spoke to me more than the other arts that I had done before. Personally, it just was what I'd always been looking for. It had the great combination of the martial art and the philosophical side that I've been looking for, which is very much in that WT Lung Ting Wing Chun system. But I'm not a believer in that there's one art that's the best art. I feel more that the art that speaks to you the most is the one that you should do. And because at the end of the day, if someone does Wing Chun and never trains, and someone does Taekwondo and they train all the time and they work really, really hard, well, they're going to be really, really good, and they're going to be able to defend themselves just as well as anybody else could. So I don't think it comes down to the art necessarily. It's more just about, if you find the one that you love, you're going to be the best at that. Just like if you like playing guitar more than playing drums, you're going to be better at the guitar. But you can't say that drums is better than guitar, or guitar is better than drums. But
what would you say to somebody that was, just try a bunch of different ones, or, let's say, men our age, never done martial arts before, or have a different idea of what would you say? Simple, just something simple that would, qualify a good school system teacher.
I would say definitely go and try a few things out. Like, go, say I'm going to have this period of experimentation in martial arts where I'm going to go out and I'm going to, it's great now. You got the internet. You can go on Yelp and you can look for like best martial arts schools. You can read what other people say about them. If something speaks to you particularly about what someone said, go and look at that school and try it out and see. And if you get along with the teacher and you like the philosophy of what they're teaching and the way they teach it and the way that the school is run, and that's up your alley, then that's what you should go for, because it's completely individual. Some people might really enjoy a super aggressive school where they come home and they can't use their arm because they've been doing all these arm locks and everything, and then that's what they really like, and they like getting kind of like a little beaten up or whatever. Maybe they like that. But then there's some people who they don't want that. They're looking for an art more for fitness, right? And maybe they're not as interested in like purely self-defense. But if whatever it is that makes you want to keep going, that's the most important part. Because at the end of the day, by doing it consistently, you're going to be really good. So if you find an art you don't really like that much and you only go once a month, that's not going to do the same thing as if you find an art you really like and you go 3-4 times a week. You're always going to get more out of that art. And that's why I'm not a believer in one art being better than the other. I think it's whatever art you find that is the one that speaks to you the most is the one that you are going to excel in the most, and that's the one you should do. And then just be open to everybody from all arts and just sit down. I mean, we've had great conversations. We don't do the same martial arts.
No.
I mean, some we have some crossover with the Filipino stuff, but yet we don't sit around arguing about who's the best.
No, we fight.
We
fight.
Yeah,
we
we
right
fight and we just start fighting right away. Exactly.
Sometimes I bleed, sometimes you bleed.
Exactly. You know, sometimes we both wake up like we both got knocked unconscious at the same time. But you know, you can learn from everybody, and that's what I love about the Wing Chun system, especially with Grandmaster Keith Kerenspecht in Europe. He's very much a friend to all arts. And he says the same thing. He does Wing Chun because that's what spoke to him. But he was a karate black belt in the past, and he did lots of other stuff. And he's very friendly and very, very reverent to all of these great masters. And he invites them to do talks at his schools too, because he feels that there's something of value in every art. And you can learn from other arts about how to make your art better, and they can also learn from you about how to make their art better. And at the end of the day, it should be a collaborative effort, because we're not out there trying to fight each other. We should be out there just trying to make each other better, and accept that everybody has made their choice, and don't try to change their mind for them. Just be supportive of the choice that they made. If it's making them happy, at the end of the day, that's all that's really important.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, that being said, I really get the joy part. So, whatever's going to keep you going to something, like there's the one thing about, I did a stint with CrossFit, and I've done stints with, Taekwondo and things like that. And it was just the sheer gritting my teeth, show up even though I didn't want to go, because I knew I would be A, in pain at the end, or B, just like frustrated with the fact that my body didn't want to move I couldn't physically, when I was a kid, I was quite overweight. I couldn't kick somebody in the head. Like I would just fall over. My center of gravity was so high, I just couldn't kick someone in the head. So when choosing, actually, I'd like to talk about before we get into that. Let's move a little bit more to training partners. So more training style rather than just martial arts or weightlifting. Finding a training partner, like somebody that's other than the teacher, because the teacher is just going to be like school. They're going to give you, here, learn this part. But then most people that I know will just go home and wait for the next class.
Yeah.
And there's not much progress. And I find that with my guitar students as well when I was teaching, and some other people just in various things. They say, you know what, I'd love to learn how to play this instrument, or I'd love to learn this style, but they never take it outside the classroom. So let's talk a little bit about I noticed that there was a post that you just did about recovering from one of your from an injury. You had some issue, some mischief with your back.
Yes.
So do you want to talk a little bit about
herniated disc?
Talking about your long-term relationship with your training partner?
So I've got this really good friend. His name is Mark Huddleston. He's a fantastic personal trainer. He's a Titleist golf specialist, so he has the TPI certification, which is kind of cool because they're also very much involved in the functional movement screen of Gray Cook, which I'm FMS certified, so is he, and the Titleist Performance Institute. Gray Cook is a huge part of that as well. So it was kind of neat. Like, him and I became friends when we both worked together at Fitness World. Was our first job as trainers, and he showed up, and of course he comes in. I'm giving him the once over. Who's this new young guy in here, right? And we became friends very quickly. Had a very similar training style. We did a few classes that we taught together, and we trained together all the time, and became really, really good friends. Having him as a training partner was amazing. I mean, the results that I got when I started training with him were more than I'd gotten training on my own, for sure. And we just pushed each other to do better and better, and to do things that maybe we might not have thought of ourselves, and kind of went back and forth like that. And then he moved away, but kept commuting back to Vancouver. He moved to the Sunshine Coast, and we just kind of stopped training because schedule wise it just sort of didn't work out for a little while. Yeah, sure. and then we just kind of lost our way with that. And I kept up my own training. I mean, I've always been quite good at training on my own as far as like weight training goes. As a trainer, it's helpful because I know that I have to have a certain level of fitness and strength to show things to my clients and to be an example. So I'm the laziest guy in the world, naturally. Laziest guy in the world. One of the reasons I think I became a personal trainer was because I do understand how important being in shape is, and how important health is. And I do enjoy being in shape and healthy. But, you know, for the most part, if I had my absolute choice, it would be not to work out. I'd just go watch a movie or something.
Sure.
So I'm a big fan of painting myself into a corner.
Sure.
So if I know that there are things that are good for me, I just paint myself in a corner, like I became a trainer. So
Yeah,
then
so you
that
have
way
to
I
do
have
it.
no choice.
So the accountability, I'm hearing that the accountability, and I get that. I've done accountability in some other projects in my life, like, it's one thing to set goals, but it's another thing to set goals and then announce them to other people. And then there's that next level where it's like, I'm setting a goal, I'm announcing it to people, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is, or I'm putting my, if I don't do this, or something to that degree. Did you ever have anything like that with your training partners? Did you make each other do better?
I mean, we absolutely did. I mean, the great thing was we were friends. We loved to train. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am very lazy by nature.
I get that.
But
I've known you for a long time.
Exactly. But
you've accomplished
I do,
some pretty amazing things.
I mean, I've accomplished
yourself.
a lot despite being lazy. And I mean, I'm probably not as lazy as I think I am. But I would say that the best part was just, you're friends. You like hanging out with each other. And you also really enjoy physical training. I mean, physical training... As soon as I'm 1 minute into it, I love it, and I'm really glad I did it. It's just that getting to actually doing it is something I sometimes have to convince myself that come on, man, just go train. And it surprised a lot of people that as a trainer, I have that same challenge as some of my clients. But we all have that challenge. I mean, I don't think that there's not a lot of people out there who are always going to do exactly the right thing. And exactly what's right for them all the time. Sometimes you just need to push yourself, and you find ways to do it. I mean, having Mark as my training partner, especially in those early years at Fitness World, before I started as a personal trainer, I was really into body weight training. I did a lot of body weight stuff. I never really lifted weights that much until I became a personal trainer and learned more about weightlifting, and that's when I really got serious about it. So the great part there was him and I were sort of both at the same point where we both were starting to be trainers. We're both starting to spend more time in the weight room. So it was amazingly motivating to have him in order for me to feel motivated to go. And then if one of us didn't want to do it, one didn't want to do it and one did, and vice versa, it was all good because one person would motivate the other, which is why I think training partners or training in groups is really, really great. And I mean, we achieved some amazing things that ended up carrying over to me being able to train on my own, since having that push in my early years of weight training and realizing how important it was to show up and to be consistent was really, really helpful. And then when I joined the RKC, which through Pavel Tsetsulian's RKC, which he now has Strong First, going to those certifications and having to go through the rigorous testing that you need to do to certify, and then every 2 years to recertify, that is another great example of that kind of painting yourself into a corner. When you know that every 2 years you have to recertify, you got to do that snatch test, you got to do the technique test, you're expected to perform, then it gives you a reason to keep training, even if you don't have a training partner, or I'm not going to any kind of like competitions. I don't do anything competitively. My martial art is my sport. And I'm not going out there every weekend seeing like who's the biggest guy I can beat up. So it's not as if I'm gonna be competing in that way. I know that it makes my martial art better. But just having someone like that was fantastic for motivation. I think that if you can, having a training partner is really good, especially if you're not able to do it on your own. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, one of the reasons why my company is called Do Strength is that it's really about the doing. Yeah,
I'd like to. It's been great watching your training and your personality evolve since I first met you. You've become, I really respect where you've gone. At first it was you were just getting to know what your groove was, and I don't like to use the word niche because I think it's just finding yourself, really, and how you want to present yourself in the world. And you and I have gone quite parallel in our paths of just discarding that which doesn't work rather than trying to accumulate more things, right? And this last iteration it's the most simplified I've ever seen your training program. So just Do Strength. Let's talk about the business part of it. Okay. I've also noticed that before you were, it's with everybody. You start a business and all of a sudden you're scattered and you don't know where to run and you don't know where to go. And I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah.
But now you're really quite refined. You've got this, great clientele base. You're starting to have even simpler programs that are 10 times more effective. Tell us a little bit about the business aspect of your training.
Okay, I'm a really big believer that the business is more important, or most often it's more important than the training. Because if you don't think about doing this as a business, then it doesn't matter how good you are at training. You're not going to be generating new leads. You're not going to be generating new clients. You're not going to be growing yourself as a trainer and growing your business base. So if you don't have that, then it doesn't really matter how good a trainer you are. I was having a conversation the other night with some friends about this, about how the most successful people in any field are not always, and in fact not even often, the best in their field.
Yeah, I have that oh my gosh. You know what? It's like this joke. What do you call a guy who graduates from the bottom of his class in medical school?
A doctor?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad I got that. That was good. That worked.
I'm good. Not a lot of people get that. They're like,
no. Reese is holding up a sign that said doctor. The answer to the joke, so it makes the podcast sound better. It's interesting because you see this in the world of martial arts, for example. You can see that it doesn't necessarily mean the person who's the best martial artist is necessarily going to have the most successful martial arts school. I mean, look, there's these guys who do this whole sort of hocus pocus, no touch knockout stuff, right? It doesn't work, right? I mean, any time that someone who's not their student goes in there and they try it on them, it never works, right? Yet they're filling huge seminars because they're very good at marketing themselves as this mystical, magical martial art. And then someone who might be a really good martial artist who can actually teach you something that you can use, rather than you pointing at someone and yelling and them still coming and beating you up because your no-touch knockout didn't work. They might not do as well because they don't run their business as well, or they don't market as well.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And it's the same thing in the training world. I've seen lots of trainers who are really, really good trainers, and I've learned a lot from them, yet their business is not great, and they haven't been able to sustain themselves in a full-time profession, and they might have had to either do something else or just abandon training entirely, simply because they didn't work enough on the business aspect of it, and they just kind of thought, well, you put on a pair of shorts and you go in and you train people. And that might work well. You work at Fitness World and you gather a group of clients, and then when you leave, those clients will all come with you because they're not training at the gym, they're training with you.
That's right.
The problem is now you're out on your own and you don't have a place where people are coming in and their membership staff are selling memberships, and so you have this constant stream of people that can come in, and you can go there every day and you can meet new people and you can get new clients like that. Or you get a list of people who just signed up and you can make phone calls and ask them to come in for a free consultation. You're out there on your own. You need to get referrals from your clients. You need to start getting a good website. You got to make sure that you're ranked high on the search engine for whatever your particular training niche is. You've got to be out there constantly selling yourself, and not in an obnoxious way, but when you're your own business, you're always thinking about how you can turn a certain situation perhaps into something that can help you business-wise.
Right.
The problem that often happens is people end up leaving the place they started that was providing them all that stuff. They don't understand that now you have to do all the things that organization was doing behind the scenes. And clients will leave. I have a lot of clients I've had for like a decade or 6 years, 8 years, whatever. But then if I look at all the files that I have, I've got way more files of people who used to train with me than people who are training with me right now, because people move away, they fall off. There's all kinds of different reasons why they're not going to be there. If you cannot generate new business and continue growing, then it doesn't matter how good you are. Eventually, the people you have right now, half of them are going to be gone, and then you're going to end up with half the business that you had. And if you didn't do anything to continue to generate more business, you're now making half the amount of money, and then you're going to make half of that, and then half of that, and then eventually you're going to be training one person, and you're going to need to go get another job.
Yeah, it's like that Michael Gerber, the E-Myth book. I don't know if you've ever read the E-Myth.
No.
It's pretty good. It's a lot about franchising, and I'm not a huge proponent for franchising. It works in some cases, it doesn't work in others.
Yeah.
But he says, the technician will always go back and make the machine better, and thinking that's what's going to bring him the glory and the value to his client, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
One more certification isn't going to get you another client. It's going out and getting another client that's going to get you another client. And then learning how to service them value. That's your stuff. That's you, as Pavel would put it, greasing the gears, right? And I find that in training too, all these things that you're saying about business, you've applied to your training too, kind of unconsciously or maybe very consciously. I don't know. I've just seen you grow as a business person and as a personal trainer and as a what do they call a Wing Chun practitioner? Is there a special name for it?
Wing Chun practitioner is good. Yeah.
Okay.
Wing Chun teacher.
Because I know it's like Judo Kai or whatever, or like ninja.
It doesn't sound as cool. Wing Chun's very simplistic. There's only one interesting sounding technique, which is the 5 thunder punches.
Yes.
Which you wait for years and years to learn them because, oh my god, I know the 5 thunder punches, and then after that everything else just has very regular names, and there's no dragon fist or tiger's claw or eagle's talon or anything.
See, that's good marketing though. Right there, right? Like learn the 5 thunder punches after 3 years. Invest now.
And you will eventually learn the 5 thunder punches, and you're super excited. Then after that, you're like, oh, okay. Well, now I'm back in the.
We were also talking earlier about the average life expectancy of a personal trainer, and you were telling me it's about 18 months.
Yeah, so I listened to a podcast a few years ago by Alwyn Cosgrove, who's a really great Scottish guy, of course. I like him a lot, being a Scotsman myself. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure where he is in America, but he has a gym. He's a very successful trainer, very successful gym owner, and he gives a lot of great free advice out in podcasts and stuff like that. And he was talking about training business, and he was a really big influence on me, just listening to some of the interviews he did in the podcast, and that's what really made me realize, listening to him, I've got to step up the business game. I've got to make sure, because I was sort of why I sought that information out, was I was going through that where I had these clients and then people were starting to drop off, and I'm like, oh man, I need to come up with ways to generate new clients now that I'm no longer working at a gym. I've got to get serious about this. Or
I love your
I'm
facility. Your new facility, though, by the way, I love.
It's a great place.
And
I have to give big thanks to Aaron Tews, the owner of Kinesiology.
Yeah, you guys do well there.
He's a fantastic guy, become a really good friend, and just he's the kind of person that wants everybody else to do well, and he understands the concept of having enough. A lot of times if you're a facility owner, you want to squeeze the most money out of your business possible, where he's more about sacrificing a bit of what he could be getting himself to make everything better for us, because that's what makes him sleep well at night.
What was the website?
Is kinesiologists.ca.
And his name?
His name's Aaron Tews.
Okay. I'll put that in the little section underneath this video if you want to check it out.
Cool.
So he's a good guy to go to if you're just getting back into.
He's a great guy to go to for any kind of mentorship in the fitness game. He's been in the fitness game for a long time. He's a trainer of fitness leaders through BCRPA, so he runs those courses where the fitness theory course that you do first, and you do the weight training course, and you do the personal training course. He runs all those courses. Most of that that he does is out in the kind of Surrey Langley area, he's always willing to help anybody out,
cool.
And he's willing to mentor anybody. He'll meet with a trainer who wants to talk about training. He loves it, and he really believes that it's one of the best jobs in the world, the same way I do, and he's very giving as far as wanting to let everybody know that. And if a trainer needs some help or wants to sit down and chat, he's always been open to that. And I'm very much the same as lots of young trainers will contact me. They've heard about me somewhere, and I'll sit down, have a coffee with them, and I'll tell them everything. I'll tell them everything that they need to do to be successful. I absolutely and completely do not believe in this sort of scarcity model where you have to feel like that we need to protect our business interests. The world is not getting healthier and thinner.
No,
right? The world is getting more stressed, and people are gaining more weight. we need to have an army of people
Yeah.
who are committed to this, and no one's taking any business away from me by me telling them exactly how I did what I did.
Yeah.
If I can get them to get to the point that I'm at quicker than I did,
Yeah.
I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, there really are lives at stake here. Like it's not just like, oh, my method, you can lose an extra blah 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 in a short amount of time, buy my video, stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, it's that, you know, you just need someone in your corner telling you like it is. You got to lose some weight or you're never going to see your grandkids.
Well, exactly.
You know, you won't be able to pick up your grandkids.
Yeah.
You'll be grunting every time you step upstairs, and you'll have to be attached to a walker, you know, your brain's going to go mushy because you're not in shape. And that's it. It's not a pleasant conversation, but it's something that unless you have the background of how the stuff works, you got to go get professional help. And it's not going to be in a doctor's office because they're not going to give you a pill that's going to make you healthy. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
And this is why relationships with doctors, with chiropractors, it's very, very important in our profession to be making those connections and contacts, because a chiropractor is going to say to someone, all right, I've got you to the point where you're not on the razor's edge anymore.
That's right.
You need to go out and strengthen these patterns.
Yeah.
And if the chiropractor knows of a trainer who is going to do that, then they're going to send their patient to that trainer. Same thing with a doctor. So you know, if you can cultivate those type of relationships, it's only going to be good in the long term. You just have to know the right way to go about it when you're talking to those people.
Yeah, I've heard the ways that I do it is some of my mentors, Evan Pagan, and he's comes from a long lineage of books that he's read, and his information is really good. So he basically just curates it all. I says always lead with the giving hand. Yeah, and that's how I live my life now, and I got that. I think he got that from, you know, I mean, well, you know, it all goes back to Socrates, right? Like it's,
that's right.
You know, it's all there. 2,000 years ago, there's nothing new. Anyways,
training's the same. There's nothing new in training. The stuff
really.
that people were doing at the turn of the century, they did stuff that people still can't do today.
Yeah,
you know, so it really is true that sort of like what's old is new again, right? It's all of a sudden. Now all those things from back in the day that with the kettlebells and things like old time strongman lifts, like the bent press,
that's
all
right.
that stuff is coming back because we realize that simple training is the stuff that actually makes you the strongest and the most resilient to injury. That's really the stuff.
There's a book I'm reading right now called Anti-Fragile.
Yeah, that's a good book.
It's a really good book. I think that's a really important read for anybody that wants to take charge of their own. So tell me now, you know, what would be like, say I'm a fella that's married, about middle age, you know, 45, kid, hasn't really worked out very committed since college and wants to get back into it, starts realizing he's aging, succumbs to the reality of his mortality.
That's right.
What's in a standard intake with you?
First thing I like to do is just get together with them for a coffee. So right out of the gym environment and just sit down. And I often just straight up say to them, "What do you want from me?" And I say it with a smile on my face so they don't think I'm being facetious or whatever. And I ask them what they want from me, and then that sort of goes on to what do they want, right? That's basically what it turns into. And what I'm trying to find out is just what do they think that they're going to get by starting training,
right?
Because I don't think that it's all just about what their body's going to look like. What it really comes down to is it and the conversation usually goes to is the things that they can't do now that they want to be able to do,
right.
Or just things that they want to be able to keep doing because they feel like those things are kind of slipping away.
Right.
A good example is a while ago I had an intake with an older dad, so he was like around my age and just starting to have kids, so 41 years old.
Yeah.
And what he noticed was that when his first kid started running around a lot, he was winded and he was having a really hard time keeping up with his kid.
Right.
And through our conversation, he said something which was just, I don't want to be that dad who's remembered as constantly out of breath all the time, and then once my kid hits a certain age, I can't even come close to competing with them.
Right.
I want to be the dad that my kid views as his physical hero. And that's what I'm trying to get at, because if they just come and say they want to look a certain way, that is quite transient. And for most people, it's not going to always last, because when you start getting into the nitty gritty of actually doing it and having to show up and having to work hard and being sore and all of those things, that can go away very quickly, and you just don't really care about looking good, right? It's all this hard work. Coming up with the why, and this is talked about a lot, especially these days, it's really out there a lot more about, you got to come up with the reason why you want to do it. You want to quit smoking, you can't just say I want to quit smoking. You have to have a very solid reason, so that whenever you think about going back,
and a plan.
But it all starts with, you have to have a reason and a vision as to why you want to do it. And so he wanted to be seen as that hero dad, and I am lucky enough to have a hero dad myself. And I often talk to men around that age. They often have kids, and that's one of the things that they talk about, is how they can't keep up with their kids anymore, and that worries them. And I tell them about my father, and my father was a physical, and he's a physical specimen. I mean, the guy is 70 years old almost now, and is still in really great shape, and he's a former boxing champion, and he's been all about fitness ever since I can remember.
But you weren't really you didn't follow in his footsteps as a teenager.
No, I used to hate it, because he would always say, "Oh, you're feeling tired, just do some exercise. You're feeling stiff and sore, just go do some exercise." And I shut up, but he was completely right.
Yeah.
But
they usually are.
Yeah, of course, of course. And the thing that was so great about it was that when I look back, my father was my physical better for almost my entire life. He was able to do things that I could not do. It was always so inspiring. But it was just great, because when I look back as a kid, my dad was the fittest dad in the neighborhood.
Right.
He was the dad in the neighborhood where if he saw something that was unjust or unfair, he would go and say something about it, because he didn't have any fear of other people. And it's not like my dad wasn't going around beating people up. He didn't do that. But he, through his boxing and the fact that he was very fit and confident, it allowed him to not have to just take it. And if he saw something unfair going on, he would stand up. And every time the other person would back down, because my dad was this kind of physical specimen, and he was a very confident guy. And I often tell these if it's a man in that age and he has kids, I often tell about my dad. It is very inspiring, and they often say, "Yeah, that's kind of what I want to be like." And then once I've got that, then we go into the actual training, which is something that a lot of trainers will do. I'll do an assessment. So in my case, I do functional movement screening, where we have a look and see how they move. We look for any asymmetries or any pain, and we make sure that if there's pain, we refer them to a doctor, because any of those positions should not be causing pain. They're just general human movement positions that everybody should be able to get into without pain. And they should be able to do the movements in full, unless they have some kind of like a surgery or something that is not allowing them to do it, like a structural issue or something like that they know about and they've had medical care about, and that's just maybe that they can't flex their ankle properly because of a surgery or something. And then once we've sort of cleared that, and we look at the movement deficiencies, get those out of the way, then based upon that, we start on a training program that is going to be germane to what their needs are. So if they don't know what their needs are, I'll make suggestions as to what could be a good idea. Like for a man that age, definitely maintaining muscle mass or adding muscle mass is very important, because as we age, we're losing muscle mass naturally. So it's very important to do some hypertrophy training. If you're training a younger person, you're maybe not doing as much of that as you're doing different types of training. You can work more on just pure strength, but for someone who's older, who's losing the muscle, you might want to be doing a kind of like power bodybuilding type training, where they're doing strength training, but you're also having an eye on the hypertrophy side to make sure that they're maintaining that muscle mass and they're able to burn more body fat at rest by having that muscle mass. And that also, that as they start aging, and that you're going to become weaker no matter what you do. If you come from a very strong place, if you have a very strong grip, so you have an above average grip, as your grip starts to fade, even when you get very much older, you still have what's called a strong grip. Whereas if you just have an average grip, very quickly, once you get to a certain age, you can't open up a jar anymore.
That's right.
Because you actually now have a weak grip.
I'm actually having to go back and retrain my right hand since I broke my finger this summer. And I'm amazed how quickly you lose your grip. Even with guitar, if I leave it for a month, I've gone through times where I don't play for a month, And I always used to have like iron claw grip left-handed because of my guitar and bass playing and my instruments. I couldn't believe how quickly I would lose it.
I know, it's quite amazing.
It's amazing. And even with like one instrument that I find when I'm playing trumpet, if I leave trumpet for a week, the embouchure muscles around my mouth, they go the fastest I've anything. You know?
I noticed that when I was in high school, I played French horn and trumpet, and I'd take a summer vacation. You don't touch it, right?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then because I mean back then I wasn't in love with playing the trumpet. I just played it because that was why I played in school bands sometimes. Because as a drummer, we had to play an instrument that sometimes was like a requirement to play some other instrument. Yeah. And so by the time it'd take me weeks to get it back or a month to get it back really good because I didn't work on it all in the summertime. I just played drums in a band.
Yeah, it's interesting how that. I mean, if you think about that, I always find it fascinating because the embouchure are such tiny muscles, and there's like so many little things going on there. It doesn't matter, fast switch, slow switch, doesn't matter. It's like that's what's going on, right?
That control you have to regain.
To look at the core muscles, which most people think it's just the stomach and the abs, and really it's the whole torso. There's all these little
and the
muscles.
Glutes, huge part of it.
Huge part of it, right? Yeah. And like the abdominis, the transverse abdominis, that's a massive muscle. But if you're the ones in your back, the small ones on your back that attach to, which is the one, the latissimus dorsi, that's the top one, but the one that's the erector spinalis. That just runs up the thing. If that's not working, it doesn't matter how strong your midsection is or any of your abdominals.
Yeah, I mean you have to integrate that stuff, and that's why it's important to learn from someone who knows how to do it, right? And going back to this client we're talking about, once we have that person on this program, whatever it is to reach the goals that they have, then what also just comes down to again is constantly reinforcing the reason why. Yeah. Because you'll always end up with reasons why not.
Yes.
Right. And even as a trainer, there are times when I take like a month where I just realize, oh my gosh, I've barely trained this month. Right. Because other stuff in my life came up and I didn't make the time for the training. It happens to everybody. But the important thing is that you are able to, if you fall off, you get back on. And this is one thing that a lot of my clients have had issues with that I've had to help them through is simply, you're going to fall off. Yeah. Everybody will. Doesn't matter whether it's me or them or the highest level athlete. Everybody's going to fall off sometimes. And then the important thing is that you fall off, you get back on. Yeah. But you realize that that's the reality. The reality is sometimes you're going to fall off. As long as you get back on again, that's all that's important. If you wallow in the fact that you fell off and you consider yourself a failure, well, you know what? Everybody does it. Yeah. But it's very easy for us to just say, well, it's just me. Look at everybody else being so successful and doing so well, and I'm the only one who doesn't have the willpower and the motivation, and all of that, and I'm self-sabotaging and all this, and really, it's total BS. I mean, self-sabotage. Why would you, if you have a goal in mind, something you really want, why would you purposely sabotage? You're not purposely sabotaging yourself. You just have some programming in there that is making a comeback that is now kind of overtaken the new programming that you're putting in, whatever it happens to be, and your life is just there to consistently work on programming yourself in that new, more positive way, but also accepting the fact that the past programming will come up. Yeah. But you need to observe it in a mindful way and look at it for what it is. Don't let it lead you down the path of 3 years later you're 40 pounds heavier and you've got a bunch of injuries and you're completely out of shape because you just allowed it to continue. It's a fight. That
psychology, the psychological aspect, we were just talking about, becoming a trainer, where you're from and things like that. That's a whole nother episode. Like, I would love you to come back and maybe we'll talk about that psychological part about it, because
that is the number one part without a doubt. I mean, you're looking for someone who wants to lose body fat. There's oftentimes a reason why they have gained a certain amount of fat. There's conversations that are in their head about why they are like that or why they might not deserve to be anything but that. And that is what has to get attacked. It doesn't matter what kind of programming you do or what kind of diet advice you give anybody. You can give all the advice and all the great programs out there in the world. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if someone doesn't actually do it, it doesn't matter. It has to be done. a really great example of this is one of my clients was telling me about her husband, and he was unhappy with the shape he was in, and he'd gain a few pounds, and like around the stomach, and he's looking at his stomach and like, oh, I really want to lose this, and he was having a really hard time finding the motivation to train, and so he stumbled upon this 7-minute workout regime where basically you just do 7 minutes.
I've seen
right?
6 or 5.
Yeah, that's right.
I waste those 2 minutes.
What a waste. Take my 5-minute course. So basically it was 7 minutes of high intensity exercise, and it was every day. So it was like 7 days a week, or maybe it was like 6 with 1 day of rest. And he says, this is what I'm going to do. And she's telling me, I told him, like, it's not going to work. 7 minutes is not enough.
Yeah.
He does this for a few months, lost all the weight. She said he looked amazing. He was way more toned. The spare tire was gone. His energy levels were up. He was happier, all this great stuff. And it was only 7 minutes a day. And when we were talking about it, you sort of realize that it's not just 7 minutes a day. It's the fact that he consistently was doing something. So number one, he was getting 7 minutes of hard work every day. That's doing something for sure.
That is.
But the other part was he's feeling good about himself because he's doing 7 minutes a day, and he's actually doing it as opposed to
the commitment.
The commitment. So what was happening as well is that he was eating a little better.
Yeah.
Because he had committed to doing this thing, and he had the motivation of that 7 minutes. He had that traction of doing it. He was eating better. He was sleeping better. He was making a bunch of other choices that he wasn't completely conscious of because he was in the headspace of, I'm trying to lose this spare tire. I want more energy. I want to feel better. And so I'm sure if you really examined every day of his life and all the things he did, you would have seen that he made a lot more changes than just the 7 minutes a day. But the 7 minutes a day was the catalyst for all the other stuff to happen. And this is where it comes down to. There's a saying that I've heard many times, can't remember who the first person said it, but that the worst design program out there done consistently will get you better results than the best design program out there done once a month.
Yeah.
Right?
Or not at all.
Or not at all.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter. You can do something that's horrible for your joints.
Yeah.
But yet if you do it all the time, you'll lose a bunch of weight and you'll get some kind of result. Whereas if you go and take a program that's really great for your joints and has all these amazing mobility exercises, and it's all really well planned out, and man, if you do that, you're going to do so well. You never do it well, you're not going to get the results. So what it comes down to for training anybody is, number one, what is it that is going to make them do it consistently?
Right.
And so if I'm going to give someone a program, I always ask them, what do you have access to?
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, I have a gym membership. And then but I don't just say, okay, great, you got a gym membership, you got access to a gym. I'm gonna give you a program with all of these weights here because you have access to all that stuff. I asked them, when's the last time you went? Oh, it's been a long time. Okay, the last time you were going,
that's right.
How often did you go? Oh, I didn't go very often. Okay, do you think on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood of you getting there 3 times a week? Realistically, and we talked through the whole thing of how you got to come home, get your stuff,
that accountability,
go there,
and just making
how long it really takes to go. Like, it's coming home and grabbing your stuff, going there, getting changed, finding parking first of all, getting changed, going in there and doing it, maybe waiting for some equipment, whatever all these barriers are. Find what they all are. Then you realize, wow, if I give this person a gym program, they're never going to go to the gym because we've already talked about how they're not going to go to the gym. So then I would say, well, here's a body weight program for you to do at home, 3 exercises. When you're in your underwear in the morning, do this for 20 minutes 3 times a week. They're going to get amazing results doing that. Way better results than they would get if they were doing this unrealistic gym program that they're never going to do. Yeah. So what it really comes down to is, what are you going to do? Same thing when we go back to talk about the martial arts. It has, the art has nothing to do with it.
That's right.
If you don't really like the art and you don't enjoy the class and you don't go, it doesn't matter. You may as well go find the art that, maybe that art is quote unquote less effective for street combat. Yeah. Right? But if it's the art that you're actually training in, you will be better at street combat.
Yep.
Even if it is, in quotations, less effective for street combat, whoever said that. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
There's a lot of confidence that comes with learning a kata and having acknowledgement, and then all of a sudden you're walking with that confidence. Yeah. This has been really great talking with you, Steve. How would people get a hold of you? What do they do? Also, before that, I'd love you to come back. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about the psychology stuff. I like that aspect of your training and what you're offering. your offerings are to do strength. So this is your website. How do people get a hold of you?
So they go to dostrength.com. There's a contact page. So the easiest way to do it is go to dostrength.com. Read a little bit about me. So I've got there's a bio in there, and there's a little explanation of sort of the way that I train, and if that speaks to you, then contact me. I mean, like I've said before, I mean, that's the important thing. You can read someone's website and just sort of think like, that's not my kind of person. I'm not everybody's kind of person, right? Yeah. So if you read my training philosophy and you think that it sounds like a good idea and something that you could get into, just go to the contact page and you can send me an email off there, or you can give me a phone call, and I'll always answer back within 24 hours on a business day. I'm a big believer in work-life balance. So just so you know, if you contact me on like a Friday late at night, you will definitely hear from me on Monday. But I take my work-life balance seriously, as I think all my clients should do. Yeah. And on the weekends, that's my time. Okay. So I will not answer you necessarily on the weekend.
Fair enough.
Depending on, I mean, maybe I will.
Which is a good practice.
Yeah.
Moving out of the gray area. Yeah. Having definitive boundaries. I think that's really great.
And then the other thing to remember there too is just that for me, there's no pressure. I am always willing to sit down and talk with anybody for a half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour at a coffee shop about what they want out of training. And if I don't think that I can provide that, I will refer them to someone who can. Or if you just, maybe you're not even ready to start training, you just want to sit down and just dip your toe in and just find out what it's all about, I'm always willing to talk about that. I'm not just into like, you come to a consultation and you must buy training from me.
So that's how I came with yours. It was that one that you offered through Facebook, and I did the $100 afternoon learn about the kettlebell, and it got me re-inspired to the kettlebell, and I stopped hurting my back.
Yes, exactly.
So,
very positive.
it's great. So drop by the website, dostrength.com, and check out Steve McMinn. Hopefully we'll get him back in the studio. We'll talk a little bit more on some other things that we have in common. And thanks for listening. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming by, Steve.
Thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated. Bye, everybody.
Bye.